All right, so today's lecture is assistive technology and cognitive impairments or intellectual disabilities. So first of all, I wanted to really go into in terms of the prevalence of intellectual disabilities. And you will see that there's over 20 million individuals who experience some type of cognitive impairment or intellectual disability. And you will see that the majority fall underneath severe persistent mental illness, Alzheimer's, and that continues to grow. Developmental disabilities, intellectual disabilities at 4 million. If you look at incidence, if we look at this particular chart, you'll see traumatic brain injuries is really up there at 1.5, and this is annually how many individuals experience an intellectual disability. This is cancer, spinal cord injury, multiple sclerosis. Learning disabilities, particularly on college campuses and many of our schools, they're now being accurately diagnosed, and there's a variety of different types of learning disabilities. And just wanting to show you the prevalence here. Alzheimer's, an estimated of 4.5 million individuals who experience Alzheimer's can benefit from assistive technology for cognitive impairments. And autism and other related disorders, 1 in 150 children. You'll have this PowerPoint that you can go back and look at this, but this is just really talking about in terms of the prevalence of impairments. And these slides were developed by Dr. Lynn Gitlow. And here were what we used to have in terms of memory aids. And so some of these memory aids could be anything from simply having a motion sensor mounted. An motion sensor can quickly tell the person that they're entering a room, or what if they forgot to turn the lights off? The motion sensor can turn the lights off. There's some other interesting motion sensors, such as this one, and I'm not sure if they still have it, but if you went into a room and you activated this, you could program a particular message that would say, hey, don't forget to pick John up after soccer practice. Or you could also use it as a reminder that says, warning, hazardous area ahead. I used it one time for a worker who constantly was forgetting to wash his hands, and before, he's in the bathroom, he's supposed to wash his hands before he goes back to work. And so I set this up so that when he would go past it, would say, hey, don't forget to flush the toilet and wash your hands. And so that was, kind of like a nice reminder. But the problem is that every time he moved, he would accidentally set it off again. And also other customers and other people using the bathroom did not want to be reminded about, hey, don't forget to flush the toilet and wash your hands. And guess what he did with that particular device? When he was reminded too many times, he decided to take it and just throw it in the toilet. So, but that's in terms of motion. There are a variety of these different reminders for what if you lose something and you misplace something, and how do you find it? There are these little tiny buttons that are called stick and find, and you can use that to put on the different items. And then there's an app, and then the app, you hit the button, and off in the distance it will wake up and it will start singing a particular tune. The problem with those kinds of devices is the fact that they have to be within 33 feet. They're Bluetooth devices, so they're really quite restricted. I have some devices here. One of my favorites here is this is called Tile. And I put tiles on my keys. So one of the things sometimes I do is I misplace my phone. And so what I can do is hit this little button twice. Okay. And here we go. And then my phone wakes up and it starts ringing. So it lets me know. Or what I can do is I can open up the Tile app. All right. And So let's say I have misplaced my keys and I don't know where my keys are. I can then tap on the button for the keys and then hit find. And so now my keys start ringing. Okay. The nice thing though about tiles is the fact that more and more people are buying tiles. They come in different shapes, sizes. This one has a sticker on it, so you can stick it on maybe on the bottom of your bicycle seat in case your bicycle gets stolen. And while they operate off of an app using Bluetooth, they also have this encrypted technology that, let's say someone steals my bicycle and ends up in Massachusetts and somebody's walking down the street and they happen to have tiles on their keychain. So all of a sudden I get a prompt that says your bicycle was found on this street in Massachusetts. So it's really kind of cool, but it's not everybody has tiles and not everybody's walking down the street in that vicinity where that stolen item is. But it's a nice way to track lost items, and it's a nice way to quickly find different items. It's very intuitive, very easy to use, very easy to set up. The batteries last about a year, and then you have to replace them. Sometimes they have sales on these as low as like $8 for a tile, and it's completely sealed, it's waterproof, so that's really nice. So those are things for finding objects. But in terms of reminding people of where they need to be, what they need to do, right here we have a variety of different watches that vibrate. At the Dollar Tree, they have these little alarm clocks that you can set a timer. And with the timer, what you can do is it will go off reminding someone that they need to take the garbage out, per se, or maybe need to take a particular medication. So these are pretty inexpensive. However, the batteries on them really don't last much more than maybe 3 or 4 months. You can also put a picture of a prompt on the particular task that you want that person to be reminded to do. There's a bunch of different reminding apps, and we will talk about reminding apps for executive function a little bit later in another lecture, but just showing particular devices that you don't have to have an iPhone. Now, these watches, there's a whole bunch of different, this is the Mini Vibe watch, and this Mini Vibe watch, which is really kind of cool, I can program 12 different reminders, different vibrating reminders. And you were looking for a watch that has really strong vibration reminders. So this is really nice for a child who needs to be reminded about different tasks. And then for adults, one of my favorite sites that I like going to is epill.com. And so epill.com sells a couple of different reminding watches. And these will have anywhere from 6 to 12 reminding prompts. And then you just program the device. And this also has the capacity to send a text message to your watch to prompt you. But here's the challenge with these particular watches, is how difficult they are to program. And often individuals who experience intellectual disabilities have a difficult time, and people without intellectual disabilities have a really difficult time trying to program these particular watches. These watches, here's the Wobble, and the Wobble watch is another vibrating watch. I found that both of these watches were very, very easy to program. Now, in terms of vibration, you want a watch that you have a really nice, strong vibration. And so I started checking those out, and there's a company called Coronas, and they have this thing where you stick this on the bottom of your watch if you want a separate vibrating prompt. The problem with this is that, first of all, it sends light. It doesn't vibrate strong enough to really alert you as to what you need to do or where you need to be. And the charging, you're supposed to put this in the little receptacle at the end of the day. So there's some pros and cons on these. So I like to have watches that have strong vibration patterns. The other part is that once you program these vibration watches to go off at certain times, they will continue to go off day after day after day unless you go in and reprogram the watch. Now, this one's pretty interesting. This is not a watch at all. And so this one is called Revibe, R-E-V-I-B. And the Revibe watch, what this one does is you put this on the student or the worker who has maybe an attention deficit disorder, has a hard time focusing and staying on task. And there's 4 different modes that you can program this. And one of the most common modes is mode number 1. And every 10 minutes, your wrist is going to start to vibrate. And it is to remind you to get back onto task. Now you can set this up to vibrate every 5 minutes, 15 minutes. And then it also has where it can remind you then to take a break. And then it flashes lights. And as long as it's flashing lights, you can relax, you can take a break. After the break is over, it reminds you, hey, get back to work or get back to the task that you're working on. Okay. I want to talk about using our voice to do reminders too, and that is many of these smartphones, which is really great. All I have to do is hold the button in and say, remind me to work on my homework tonight at...
Okay, I added it to your reminder for today at 7 p.m.
So it automatically did that. Now, if I said, remind me at 8 p.m. to work on my history assignment.
Okay, I added it to your reminder for today at 8 p.m.
So that's really kind of cool. The other thing that I like about the Apple Watch, or not the Apple Watch, the phone, and we'll talk about the watch because that also vibrates and pushes different reminders. So that's really kind of cool too with the watch, because you don't always have your phone with you. And plus, when you get reminded, you don't want this alarm going off. You want a nice vibrating prompt so it doesn't distract other people. So with this one, I can have reoccurring reminders. I can say, remind me every day at 7 a.m. to exercise or to load the dishwasher or whatever that task might be. So you're really looking for prompts that have reoccurring reminders. And so you can do that with the particular smartphone. And you can also go into settings on the phone and set different things like under the reminder section, where you can have a nice text thing that also comes up and prompts you. So smartphones are another nice way for reminding people. Also, epill.com has this thing, it looks like a flying saucer, and you open it up and there's all these little slots and you can put all your medication in, and then throughout the day it will rotate and the alarm will go off reminding you that it's important that you take your medication. But here's the funny thing, it's all locked up and it will only disperse the medication only at the right time. So it's impossible for you to take too much. So the only way to turn the alarm off on that one is you have to flip it upside down. It's got somewhat of like a little mercury switch. So when you flip it upside down and then flip it back, that's how you deactivate the alarm. If you don't do that, the thing drives you crazy. The alarm keeps going off. And if you see here, well, it's actually on the side here, there's a little key that comes with it so you can lock it so that only the care provider has access to put the meds in. And so it's got a built-in motor that rotates. And then over here, here's a few other, this is a single message reminder. So this particular device, now you can find these at the pharmacy. They're like maybe $10, and you put a message in there that says, my car is parked in B3, and then you come out of the movie and you listen to the message. Now, where's my car parked again? And you hit the play button and it tells you B3. Now, I have used these little messages for teaching different sequencing of tasks. When the person needs some auditory information or auditory prompt because they can't read, but they're not sure what they're supposed to be doing on that particular task. So for $10,